No, I think it's recording.
Okay.
Hey, anyway, thank you very much, Vishrant, for joining A Traveling Lighter. Um, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. You've got a very strong social media presence. So I've been kind of watching some of your recordings, and I'm really curious to know what life is like for you.
It's very different than how it used to be. Uh, I don't see myself as separate from anything or anyone, including you. I see it's almost like I'm talking to myself because the sense of somebody talking isn't even there. The I is missing. But I've got so used to talking without an I that I've got very good at it over the years. It's been 27 years now since Vishrant disappeared, and we haven't seen him since. So, what's it like for me? I'm blissed out to the max.
Yeah, it took you a while to get used to it. Can you say a bit more about
It
that?
did. Well, after awakening, I would sit in a chair and I'd stare into space in a big room for about 6 months because I was so gone. There's just nothing left of Vishrant. And I was blissed out very strongly in a beautiful space, profoundly content for no reason whatsoever. And then one of my teachers, my Advaita Vedanta teachers, came and saw me and said, "Look, you've got to bring this into the marketplace. You've got to come out of your sanctuary and start helping people find the same space." And so I've been out now helping people for 27 years.
No. I used to have a Qigong teacher, and he was a Tibetan Buddhist, Dzogchen. And he used to have great stories. And one story he used to say is that there are people, Tibetan Buddhists, who are trained specifically to go into caves to find people who are probably in that state you're in and have been there for hundreds of years. And their job is to wake them up and to explain that they've made a mistake in their meditation. And then
Ah,
they kind of die. They fall into dust because there's kind of only half alive, if you know what I mean.
right.
But they've been in that state for ages. I love these stories. I think they're fantastic.
What just happened then is my bullshit detector went off.
Yeah, I know. It probably is bullshit, but it's a great story, isn't it? This idea that there are these
It's a
all
good
these
story, but
meditators.
probably
It,
not true.
yeah, there's probably all these. Yeah, but it could have been. Could it have been a space that you would just be in, like in bliss, like
Yeah,
emptiness?
but you'd still only last 70 years or 80 years or 90 years.
Yeah,
The body has a timeline.
yeah.
After about 90 years, the body is going to deteriorate pretty badly, no matter whether you're awake or you're asleep.
Mm,
Doesn't make much difference.
yeah,
There's a timeline on the body.
yeah, yeah. That's Ramana, isn't it? The insects started eating his hip, didn't they, and stuff like that. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Wow. So that was 27 years ago. And what were the stages then of entering the marketplace, if you like? I'm using your words.
Well, I began by running groups, self inquiry groups,
Mm,
because when I had the awakening, I was with Advaita Vedanta teachers and I was using their presence to find myself as truth. Because when I was with them, I disappear like I am disappeared now, and I'd find myself as truth. But when they went away, I'd go back to ego based reality and I would be there. And I was working at that time as a psychotherapist and as a naturopath. And I loved what I did, but all of a sudden I couldn't do what I did anymore because too much of Vishrant had disappeared. And people would come to me and they'd sit in my clinic and they'd try to talk to me and I asked them, "Why are you here?" and they wouldn't be able to answer the question because the energy field that I was putting out was strong enough to blow their mind. And so I gave up the idea of being a naturopath and psychotherapist and eventually took up the idea of actually teaching people how to get free. And we called it satsang, which means association with truth. And I've been holding satsang now 7 times a week for 27 years.
Wow. So is there a kind of community growing around you there,
Heck yeah.
listeners? Yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah. I have a community that live here, and I also have a worldwide community
Uh-huh.
of sannyasins. A sannyasin is someone who's decided to take a spiritual life, and usually I've given them a spiritual name, and they use that name. And it's just to remind them basically that they've taken a life that's interested in truth rather than a life that's not interested in truth. Now, it's interesting to define what truth is.
Go for it.
Well, to me, truth is what we really are. Most people, including myself before 27 years ago, thought I was the mind and I was the body. 27 years ago, I discovered I was the universe. And I'm experiencing that in this moment as well. I am the universe. I am talking to myself, you, and I'm loving you to bits because my heart is wide open. And this is very beautiful. And this is the way I teach people. I teach people to open up and find their own hearts and operate from that place rather than operating from a place that is suffering. Because most people suffer incredibly because they turn themselves into victims of this, that, and the other. And so I teach people not to turn themselves into victims of anything, not to blame the world for how they are, but to accept life as it is and to learn to let things go. And in learning to let things go and accepting life as it is, suffering disappears.
Mm.
Suffering is a result of resistance to life.
Mm. Yeah. And so you have these satsangs, you have a community around you. Um, a lot of people I speak to kind of renounce that kind of way of teaching. They even don't call themselves teachers. They're kind of like, Life of Brian kind of thing. I'm not your, you know, I'm just I'm just nobody. I'm just don't follow me. Don't see me as an
Yeah,
authority. That kind
I
of
love
thing.
that idea. That's a wonderful idea.
Mm,
The problem is, I already have all these followers and I have a community and I hold meetings and everything's already been organized. But the truth is, I'm a nobody going nowhere.
mm,
That's the truth. And I've been a nobody going nowhere for the last 30 years.
mm,
And that's a beautiful thing to do because when you're a nobody going nowhere, no one competes with you. It takes no energy to be a nobody going nowhere. It takes tremendous energy to be a somebody that's been somewhere. And before I got into spirituality, I was a successful businessman and I was a big somebody who was going somewhere who retired at the age of 28. And the amount of energy it takes to be that big somebody, it's not worth it.
yeah, yeah. No,
So,
it's I really am with you there. I love to teach this course that I do because it's not about your expertise at all. It's just allowing people to be themselves, discover their true nature, and there's no effort involved in teaching it. It's lovely. So I understand that bit, of holding this image, trying to keep an image. I'm also curious about, your there's a kind of bluntness to your teaching.
yeah,
How much is that about being Australian?
no, it's not about being Australian, it's
Uh,
about being real.
Uh,
I'm not interested in holy. I'm not interested in religion. I'm interested in reality. And people call me a spiritual teacher, but I see myself as a reality teacher. I try to teach people reality. And I try to teach people how to not suffer, which is, I think, a wonderful thing to do, particularly when people get it and they say, God, my life has changed because of that. Because that's what happened to me when I was 19. Someone changed my life. I had intervention when I was 19, and someone showed me that I didn't have to be a victim of life, showed me that victim orientation is a choice. And the moment you turn yourself into a victim, you start hurting yourself. And we live in a world that is full of victim orientated thinking.
mm, yeah, yeah. But there is, to give a kind of counter argument, there is oppression in the world, isn't there? There is an imbalance of power, there's inequity. There,
Well, you could say that, but it's a choice. Like I had a childhood that was very, very rough. Um, I was brutalized. I was sexually abused, but I do not see myself as a victim of it. I just see this is what happened
mm,
and I accept it. And because I see it in this way and don't turn myself into a victim of it, all the wounding that was associated with it is gone. And life is good. People who remain victims remain wounded for their whole lives.
mm,
And so, yeah, bad things can happen to people, but we have a choice whether to be a victim of it or not.
mm,
Like things happen to me as a child and as a teenager, but I chose to stop seeing myself as a victim. I chose to drop it.
mm.
And that was probably the best thing I ever did in my life. Otherwise, I'd still be a wounded bunny to this day.
And that was when you were 19.
19, yeah.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit about that? What happened when you were 19?
Well, it's an interesting story because my girlfriend, I was actually a gang leader at that time. I was on the streets of Perth as a gang leader, and my girl and my girlfriend had just been sold a course called the Greatness in You Seminar, which was a 4-day live-in course, and I think she paid something like $400 for it. And I felt at that time that she'd been ripped right off by these con men. So I went in all heavy and everything to beat the money out of these guys. And they talked to me. They said, "Why don't you do the course?" And I said, "I don't want to do the course." "You'll love it." "No, I won't. I want the money back." And then they said, this is where they got me. "Are you frightened of something?" And I went, "I'm not frightened of anything." "Why don't you do the course then?" And eventually I committed to doing the course.
Mm,
And the course broke me down because the first day of the course, all the lights went out. There was about 25 people in the room, and we're in a horseshoe. The lights went out, and a spotlight came on, and the spotlight came on to me. "You asshole, get out here." That was the beginning of this 4-day intense course. And they worked on me for about 12 hours and threw all this stuff at me because they had a psychological profile on me, which I'd filled in before I did the course. And this little old lady stood next to me and she said, "When I feel into you, I feel nothing but a rock. You're dead inside." And something broke in me. This was after 12 hours of being bullied.
mm,
Something broke inside of me. And I started to see that what she was saying was true. I'd become so hard as a result, probably of my wounding, my childhood wounding, and so rough that I was out of touch with reality. I was out of touch with my own heart. I was out of touch with everything. And it changed me. So at the end of this course, I was so changed that I went out and I started selling the course for them. I became their salesman. I was so impressed by it.
Mm.
And that was called the Greatness in You seminar, run by our organization called Focal Universal.
Mm. And that was the beginning
And
of it, of the journey, if you like. I mean, towards
yep, that
something.
was the beginning. That was the beginning of the journey.
Mm.
I changed from wearing a studded belt to wearing a three-piece suit.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm curious because you said, you can choose not to be a victim, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like, that process gave you a lot of choice. It was just a spotlight on you and you're pulled out and you're bullied and it was kind of quite coercive.
No, not that process. It was the victim orientation I was carrying from before that,
Yeah.
by being abandoned by my parents to
Mm,
start with, and by being brutalized at school by Roman Catholic brothers and priests,
mm,
and by being sexually abused by a Roman Catholic brother.
mm,
It was that I was a victim of.
mm. Yeah.
And people might say, well, justifiably. But I learned that as long as I see myself as a victim,
Yeah.
I'm in trouble, because I'm going to create more wounding.
Mm. Yeah. I think like this word choice is something that is played, I've been talking about this in other meetings I've had. It's like when you were a kid, you didn't have a choice, did you? There to
No, I
be
didn't have a
that victim.
choice. That's true. But
Yeah.
as an adult at 19, I did have a choice.
Yeah. But there's that shame about what happens when you're a child comes from thinking that you had a choice and that you were kind of implicit in it.
Um,
Do you know what I mean? So part
I
part of
understand what you're
part of that
saying,
healing
but
is to recognize, oh, I was just a child. I didn't have a choice. And then, that forgiving of the child, and this is psychotherapy, I guess,
yeah.
is to recognize that poor child and to embrace the child that didn't have a choice. You know what I mean?
Well, championing the inner child is something I did.
Yeah.
I went back and became the hero of my own inner child.
Mm,
Uh, but part of that was not being a victim to anything. Part of that was taking with full responsibility that I make myself feel, that the world can't make me feel. I am responsible for my feelings, and I make me feel.
mm,
And that was one of the biggest lessons I ever learnt, that I'm responsible for me. Nobody can make me feel but me.
mm. Yeah. So
And when
what?
we look at manhood, because I was 19, I was headed towards manhood, taking full responsibility for yourself, as far as I was concerned, was a part of manhood,
Mm,
a part of being a man instead of a child, instead of a little boy pretending to be a man.
yeah. Yeah. Hmm. So what does compassion mean for you then?
Compassion comes about because of love. And I love you. I can't help it. It's just there.
Mm,
And because of that, uh, if you're in any sort of trouble, I'd probably try to help you.
mm,
That's how my compassion shows to me and to the world, in that I spend my whole life trying to help people,
mm,
assist them, usually with their problems.
mm. And how's that working out for you?
Oh, really well. I love it.
Yeah.
I love people. I love working with people.
Uh,
Uh, People are beautiful.
mm,
They just need to be uncovered.
mm,
And part of what I do is uncover that beauty in people by taking things off them, not by giving them things, but by taking things off them, usually understandings that are wrong, or belief systems that are wrong, belief systems that cause contraction in them when the expectation on them is not met. And anything that contracts us creates suffering in us.
mm,
So I'm not into suffering, and I'm not into helping people suffer. I'm into helping people get out of suffering.
Mm.
I look at you and I think, how can I help you?
Mm.
But you've got white hair like me, which means you have to be a certain age. You've been around the block a fair bit yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. To me, it kind of there's an immediate suspicion that comes up when somebody says they want to help me.
Ah,
Yeah.
well, usually it means to help you out of your wallet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's what it
part of it.
usually means.
Yeah.
But when heart's open, because you asked me about compassion, I don't want to make money out of you. I want to
Mm.
help you.
Yeah.
It's different. It's like my joy is in helping you.
Yeah.
That's the reward I get for helping you. My joy.
Yeah. No, I feel the same, when I'm teaching, I feel the same. But um I guess because, Advaita Vedanta and non-dualism, non-duality, a lot of that comes from this place of there is no person with a problem. There are no people here. There's just
Yeah,
awareness.
I don't go down that
No, yeah,
line
yeah.
because it depersonalizes everything too much, and it makes it very difficult for me to help people who are identified as an I. So I don't go down that line. I treat people like they are separate individuals, that they do have choice, and that because that's what works. We live in a community of people who operate that way. The Advaita Vedanta non-dual thing is a little bit too far-fetched for most people, particularly if they haven't had a satori or had a glimpse of the truth.
Mm,
And so I just don't go down that line. I try to keep it very, very real. I talk within a person's reality, not outside their reality.
mm, yeah. But is there a risk then that you're kind of feeding the idea of a person here suffering and that suffering, even though we want to end it, has a certain value?
Not on your life. I don't encourage any form of victimness
Mm,
whatsoever.
mm,
You want to suffer, you can suffer, but I'm not going to support it with any words, with any notions, nothing.
mm. And also, I'm curious. I know you spent time with Osho,
Mm.
um, and I always wondered why is he called Osho now, not Rajneesh? Since he died, I think it's turned to that, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Is it like
he changed his name in the 80s
oh, is it
to
right?
Osho.
Uh-huh.
I became a sannyasin of his in 1983, and he was Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh then. And
Mm,
I think a couple of years later, he changed his name to Osho. He said basically, I don't even remember why he did that. Doesn't matter.
no, no. I always
I
thought it
haven't.
was.
I
I think.
changed my name. I used to be Vincent Cooper, and I changed my name to Vishrant. My whole family freaked out. All my friends freaked out.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are you calling yourself Vishrant for? Anyway,
I bet you,
I
you got
found
some
out
stick for
later.
that.
Uh,
I bet you got some stick for that.
oh, I did. Well, yeah, I wasn't popular, but fortunately for me, because of my rough upbringing, I didn't care what people thought of me.
Mm,
I had I'm going to do it my way, no matter what kind of attitude. And with Rajneesh, I was doing a group with him, with his people in Fremantle, West Australia. And during the group, I had a vision, and I don't usually have visions. That's not the sort of thing I get into. And in this vision, I was looking down a big water tunnel, a big water pipe. And at the end of the pipe was this little Indian man beckoning me. And it was him. It was Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, and he was beckoning me. And I thought, okay, I'll come. And I took sannyas, and I went to America to live with him.
wow.
And I loved it. I loved living with him. And it changed my life because he introduced me to the way of the heart, which was something that was lacking in my life. I was great at making money, but I wasn't great at loving. And he introduced the whole idea of the way of the heart to me. And I chose that way of life. I chose the way of the heart as a way to live my life. Because at some point, I couldn't find any purpose in life, particularly after Satori's. It's almost like I didn't want to live anymore. And so I created a purpose for myself. And the purpose was the way of the heart. And that's why I became a naturopath and psychotherapist. I went back to university and trained in those subjects so I could have some tools to help people with.
So can we go back to that bit where you say that you experienced Satori and then you didn't know what was the point of living? Is that right?
Well, once I realized I wasn't the mind, I wasn't the body, and that everybody I knew was suffering, I started to lose interest in being here. I became, I wouldn't say suicidal, but I just wasn't interested in living here anymore. And I remember lining trees up on my motorbike and then veering away from them at the last minute and thought, this is going to end up in my death. I've got to find a way to stop this. And I did. I thought, look, why don't I live the way of the heart? Why don't I give myself a purpose? I can't find a purpose in life. Why don't I give myself a purpose? So I gave myself the purpose, the way of the heart.
Mm.
That was the reasoning involved in that.
So I've seen that documentary about what happened in America with Rajneesh. What was it like to be part of all that?
Well, a lot of it was bullshit, that documentary, because I was there and I had a reporter's card. And so I had access to him, I had access to everybody, and I was working as a reporter there. And a lot of what was said that went on didn't happen the way it was said. It was there to protect the guilty. Because Rajneesh, as far as I was concerned, was innocent. I couldn't find any evidence on him whatsoever that he'd been a bad man, but I could find a great deal of evidence on the people helping him that they were guilty as hell of everything. And so that movie was a farce. In that the interviewer, the people who produced the video, the movie, interviewed the people who were the perpetrators of the problem, rather than interviewing the people who actually knew what really happened.
So it's often the case, isn't it? The people closest to the stronger light cast the longest shadows. So kind of.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah.
I had no time for them because I was a successful businessman. I used to hang out with them in Australia when they visited Australia. I'm not going to name any names because that's not a nice thing to do. But I used to be their friend, and they were full of shit. Osho was clean as far as I could see, but the people helping him were not.
Yeah. And that's the danger, isn't it? And I guess that's my suspicion when you say I want to help people, is the road to hell is paved in good intentions, And what was built around Osho is it had elements of a cult, didn't it? Would you say that?
Oh, it was definitely a cult. It was the best cult I ever joined. The sex was great.
Right. Yeah.
I was a risk taker. That's probably why I was successful in business. And getting involved with the Rajneesh organization was one of those risks I took in life because it meant changing my identity pretty much completely. First of all, I had to wear red clothes or orange clothes, and I had to change my name to Swami Prem Vishrant, which was very different than Vincent Cooper, who used to wear three-piece suits. So there was a huge shift in in how I was operating. And I loved it because it was risky. It
mm,
was fun. It was
mm,
an adventure. And it was an adventure that took me to my heart.
mm. And it was after, but it was after that that you felt this emptiness.
Yeah, because after I spoke to him, about a year and a half to 2 years later, I started having what's called satoris.
Mm,
A satori is a glimpse of who we truly are.
yeah.
And I found myself as the universe. I found myself as every particle in the universe being love.
Mm,
And then I came back to ego based reality, and the shock was tremendous
yeah.
because the difference was so great. And it wasn't too long after that that I didn't feel like being here anymore.
Mm,
Because when I looked around, all I could see was my friends, my family, my associates all suffering because they were all locked in their minds, thinking they were somebody that was going somewhere.
mm,
And I knew from my satoris that I was a nobody going nowhere. And I knew that I was not the mind, I was not the body. I knew that I was the universe, but I wasn't experiencing that anymore. It was only held in memory.
mm,
And I felt like I didn't want to be here.
yeah.
That's why I gave myself a purpose because I couldn't find a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
I walked in and I was so keen on finding my heart. I
Mm,
walked into my offices, gave my companies to my staff completely, including, I think, 14 or 16 offices of furniture,
mm,
and walked out broke and set off around Australia to look for my heart. I took my shoes off. I walked around Australia for 4 years looking for my heart. And eventually I found it. And then that's when I went back to university and trained as a psychotherapist and naturopath. So I could have the tools to help people with.
mm, mm. I don't know if you know that this poem called The Conference of the Birds. It's a Sufi poem. And it's quite interesting how your story matches the paths of the Sufi in the sense that, that first is there's the devotion, that there's the quest, and then there's devotion and love, then there's sort of wisdom. But after that comes indifference, which is this period in the desert, where you
Mm,
just realize that nothing has purpose in the sense that, that we're everything. And so that is in the poem. The birds gather and they have to go and look for what's called the simorg, which is this holy bird that's going to deliver them to freedom and freedom from suffering. And they go through these seven valleys. And the seven
mm,
valleys are the stages of Sufi enlightenment. And at that point
mhm.
of indifference, there's also, they don't even have their religion anymore. So although Islam is the vehicle, that's why fundamentalists destroy Sufi temples because they renounce even Islam at the end. But after,
Well, what they did is they said they were God, and that caused a problem because that's blasphemy in the Islam religion.
yeah,
Because when you wake up, you know yourself as the universe.
yeah,
What's the definition of God?
mm, yeah, yeah. But so I recognize that valley of indifference very much in my background as well. Um, and then there's this unity. And but what's interesting with unity isn't the end. The next valley after unity is bewilderment. And then the valley after bewilderment is poverty and nothingness. So that's
I
why,
had plenty of that.
yeah, yeah.
Walking around Australia, I ended up in soup kitchens. I
Uh,
was so poor, I couldn't afford to buy myself a meal.
uh, yeah. Wow. Hmm. So there's kind of I feel a new responsibility now when because the course is all about revealing people's true nature. Um, but to recognize that doing that, means that people might end up in this valley of indifference. And
That's a possibility.
yeah.
And I've been trying to talk to people about that because that's all you can do. Because who do you talk to about it? You can only talk to about it to someone who's experienced it or is experiencing it.
Mm, yeah.
There's a bit of a letdown in knowing yourself as truth. And that's that when you come back to this reality with all the people who are suffering around you, it's like, oh, not nice. Because everyone you know is suffering, someone in some way. They're resisting life in some way. They're victim orientated in some way. And what can you do? Well, if you've got the way of the heart, you can love them and try to help them.
Mm. So is there another risk? Anyway, I'm problematizing here, Vishrant. Apologize for that, but it's because it is
That's okay.
that you're, and I don't like using this word karma and all that kind of thing, but if you're setting yourself up to help people, is that the end of like reflecting on yourself and making sure you're not doing any harm? Do you know what I'm getting at?
I do
Once,
know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yes. When you find heart, you don't want to do any harm. It's only when you're not in touch with heart or love that you can hurt people. So if you've found heart, all you want to do is the best for people.
yeah,
I can see how it could get skew whiffed if you didn't find heart, but fortunately, I found heart.
hmm,
I found love, and I love, and I love, and I love.
hmm. There are plenty of examples of people who've set themselves up and are followers and doing it with all the best intentions. But people being people, like the people create something, just like what happened around Osho in a way in America. That through our history, it's happening all the time. It's almost like a pattern. It's like a blueprint.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
there was a mistake that Osho made.
Uh-huh.
He took his fingers off the pulse.
Uh-huh.
He wasn't watching what his people were doing.
Uh-huh.
And that's the lesson I learned from him. You can't take your fingers off the pulse because human beings will revert back to the lowest point if possible.
Yeah.
And what happened in America with the Rajneesh organization was absolutely disgraceful.
Mm.
But it was because Osho took his finger off the pulse and wasn't watching what was happening.
Mm.
He trusted the wrong people.
Mm. Yeah. So there is a sense there. I mean, it's a lot to take on, isn't it? To be the center of a community. That's why I'm kind of curious about this, because there was a point where I could have set myself up like that, and I really ran in the opposite direction. I just didn't want anything to do with that kind of,
Mm.
pedestal, if you know what I mean.
It's not so much a pedestal, it's just making things work for a lot of people. It's being the center of the wheel,
Mm.
which is a requirement to make the wheel go round. And so I am the center of this wheel here, and I do make it go round, but I watch everything.
Mm.
I don't I don't take my eye off the ball for a second. I learned by watching Osho. I learned that you don't do that. You make sure everything is ticked, everything is crossed,
Mm,
all the I's are dotted.
yeah. And the kind of words used like marketplace, you're a businessman, you're like a CEO. Is that inform as well how you share this message?
Am I a CEO now?
Kind of.
Uh, Not really. I'm the spiritual teacher, but I'm also in charge of the community. So CEO, I just make it work because I know how to make it work.
Mm,
Um, it's not hard. It's not hard for me to make a group of people uh, operate really well because I've been doing it since I was a little boy. I was involved in businesses. Before that. I was involved in running gangs. I know how to run a show.
I love it. Yeah. Mm. So what does the future look like?
I don't have an interest in the future,
Mm,
as I don't have an interest in the past. I have an interest in the now with you, and the now is beautiful.
mhm. I'm
And
curious.
even if you were having a go at me, the now would be beautiful because I'm in acceptance of life as it is. I'm not
Yeah.
fighting with God. I'm not shaking my fist and saying you got it wrong.
I'm only asking really because we're in the middle of a heat wave here in the UK, and we just had one like last month as well. So it feels like the world is on fire.
Yeah, I'm sitting in 23 degrees here. It's pretty rough.
23. It's about 34 here in the UK.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of sannyasins in Europe, and they tell me how hot it is.
Yeah.
They can always come to Australia.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with the weather. It's killing people.
yeah. Yeah. And I feel in generally working with people in the public now, there's a sense of kind of uncertainty like there hasn't been for a long time about the future,
Ah,
and investing in that future. And you talk to young people now, and they can't see a future to invest in a way, which is, makes them very open to, being in the present moment because they can't see a future. Like when we were young, we knew what career could look like, and we it was a house and a family, and we knew all of that. That was handed down to us, and it was a possibility. But the feeling now with young people is there isn't a possibility anymore.
ah.
And also that there's this constant doom about the climate and about just general
Well,
end of democracy.
how about acceptance of what is? You
Hmm.
see, what you're talking about is a non-acceptance of what is, because what is yeah, it's pretty lousy.
Uh,
But if you can accept that, you can find peace. If you can't accept it, you just find suffering.
yeah.
Your choice. You create your reality by the way you think. Acceptance of life as it is ends the negative story.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, what that acceptance includes now probably is the collapse of everything that we grew up with. It's kind of collapsing,
Maybe
maybe.
that could be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you see, if you accept it, it doesn't matter. It's only when you're in non-acceptance that it matters.
Mm,
And so I try to teach people to accept life as it is rather than resist life, because resistance of life equals suffering, big time.
mm. But do you think in history if the people who made the world a better place by fighting oppression, for instance, had just accepted things as they were, would we still be in that place of,
I surrender to love.
mm,
You got to remember that I used to be a street fighter,
yeah, yeah,
and there's no joy in street fighting. There's no joy in being a winner on the streets.
uh-huh,
There is so much joy in being a lover of life. And the lover of life accepts life as it is, doesn't fight, doesn't fight,
mm,
just accepts it. This whole idea of having a revolution is massive discontentment,
mm,
suffering for no reason, won't change anything.
mm,
So I try to advise people to accept life as it is, to stop fighting, to
mm,
stop being a victim of this, that, and the other, to let things go rather than hanging on to things.
mm,
The future's not ours to see. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anyone does.
mm. But I mean, just to be a devil's advocate here, if um, if there's somebody, a woman comes to you who's in a domestic abuse scenario, you don't say to them, accept how it is.
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd say get out.
Yeah,
I'd say leave. I'd say move to action. Absolutely.
yeah,
That wasn't a very good example.
no. I'm sure I can think of a better one.
By the way, I deal with those sort of claims a lot.
Mm,
Uh, People bring their problems to me, and I'm a realistic teacher. I live in the real world. I don't live in la la land.
mm,
I teach what works, not what doesn't work.
mm,
If you're in a domestic violence situation, get out.
yeah,
There's no point putting up with abuse.
no.
Usually doesn't stop.
Mm. But some people who have been abused or have received some kind of trauma, there are physiological changes in the brain.
Yep. I
They all,
suffered from those
yeah.
because I was traumatized as a child, and I managed to heal it all.
Mm,
First of all, by accepting it all, and then by allowing myself to feel the pain that was inside of me and feel the trauma that was inside of me, and it all got undone. It took years. It didn't happen overnight. It took years, but I healed it all.
mm,
I don't carry any wounding.
mm,
If you're willing to feel what's inside of you, you can heal what's inside of you.
mm. So when you were working as a therapist, and there was a point where you felt you couldn't serve people as a therapist because um, um, you just felt like you were listening too much when you actually
No,
knew.
they were losing their minds while talking to me. I'd
Yeah,
ask them,
that's
"What
right.
are you doing here?"
Right.
And they'd say, "I don't know."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I realized this isn't going to work.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah. And this is what you call the Buddha field, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, it's a field of energy. It's around anyone who's fully awake.
Yeah.
And I first ran into it when I tried interviewing Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, and I'm reading the questions, and all of a sudden I lost my mind completely. And I'm on camera, and I can only read one word ahead at a time and have no understanding or idea of what I've already read. His energy field or his Buddha field took me so firmly into the moment.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I appreciate that because I feel that all the time. Doing these podcasts, there's lots of silences and
Yeah,
yeah,
you understand. Good.
Yeah.
I pretty much live in no mind. I don't think. I don't engage thinking. I love reality so much. And I started to love reality so much when I was a kid because it was the only way I could survive my childhood because I was in such a dangerous environment. If I wasn't present to what was happening around me, I would have been beaten up daily. And I grew up with that every day for years. And it developed a pattern in me of being present to reality or what they call meditation. And so I've been in meditation my whole life.
Mm. I mean, some people would call that hypervigilance.
Except I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
Hypervigilance is usually tied in with stress. I'm what I call cool, calm, and deadly.
Mm.
It's different. And I took that into business, and it worked in business. It also worked in higher consciousness and spirituality. Present moment awareness, cool, calm, and deadly.
Mm. Deadly to what?
Hmm?
Deadly to
Sorry.
what? Deadly to what?
It's a good question. I don't miss anything.
Mm.
You take me on with words, and I'm likely to be deadly. I used to be cool, calm, and deadly on the streets, but that was a different type of deadly because I did martial arts for 14 years and I was a martial artist and I was very good at it. But I stopped doing that when I nearly killed a guy when I was 24 years old. And I decided to stop training. That was it for me. It was over. It was so devastating that I'd nearly cost a man his life. But the deadly bit, as far as my mouth is concerned, never left.
Mm. Yeah. So
And
you,
I use that deadliness to help people. I use it to help people. I use it to show them where they might be going wrong, where they're getting it wrong, where they could actually do something different and make a big difference in their life and the life of those they come in contact with. Cool, calm, and deadly to me is switched on
mm,
rather than switched off. Because I see lower consciousness as switched off, I see higher consciousness as switched on.
mm, mm.
You're having trouble accessing your mind.
Mhm.
Mm. Everything got lost.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Does that mean it's a good time to end?
Well, if you wanted it to end, it's up to you. I'm okay with you. I'm very used to people losing their minds
Yeah.
while talking to me.
Just doesn't make very good podcasts, which is silence, you
No, it doesn't.
know.
It doesn't. It doesn't. You cut up the podcast or do you deliver them straight?
It's a podcast, so it kind of goes on to.
It's live. It's out there live, right?
Oh no, it's not
Okay.
live now. No, no. So this is recorded, isn't it? So then I just I put it up onto YouTube and like Apple Podcasts, wherever people get their podcasts. But in the
Well,
end,
we
You go ahead, sorry.
Well, we put out videos as well, and
Yeah.
we get uh, hundreds of thousands of views on videos, which is really nice.
Mm,
But usually they're not podcasts, they're more on a particular subject.
right. Yeah. Well, I like it to be very open and just a roving kind of conversation, really, see what comes up. Um, and and I often ask at the end if there's anything anybody wants to share or promote or, um, but you've got all that sewn up with your social media, I think, haven't you?
I do. I have, I think, 4 or 5 people involved in social media full time here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because my mission and the mission of the society I work for, the Buddhist society I work for, is to get the Dharma out there or the truth out there. And that's the mission. It's like to get the information that, hey, we're not the mind, we're not the body, we're way beyond that.
Mm,
And that the only thing valuable here is love. Because we live in a world that doesn't believe that. So
mm,
that's our mission.
yeah. What is the Buddhist group that's uh, attached to?
Uh, Vishrant Buddhist Society. I created a Buddhist society along the similar lines of Gautama the Buddha's teachings because I agreed with him
Mm,
on his teachings. So I created a society that runs similar
mm,
to mainstream Buddhism, but I removed all the smells and bells. I'm not interested in any form of ridiculousness.
mm,
Only what works, in my experience, is taught.
mm.
And if it's not my experience, it doesn't get taught.
And is it, I know in lots of Buddhism, kind of lineage is important, isn't it? I think. I think I'm right in saying
Living what?
lineage. Lineage,
Oh,
so
I'm not interested in lineage. No, not one bit.
so how are the Buddhists, that you've met, how do they feel about the organization you've set up?
It depends where they meet me. I've
Mm,
got a lot of Buddhists who meet me online from countries like Thailand and Vietnam,
mm,
and they don't question it at all. They don't have an interest in the lineage side of it. I don't have an interest in the lineage side of it as well because the truth is the truth,
mm,
and that's it. The truth is the truth. Where it came from is irrelevant. The truth is the truth.
mm,
I don't have much time for religions because mostly they ask you to believe stuff that's not your own experience and they have faith, and I don't trust that one bit. That's a bit like, trust me. uh, I prefer that people listen and have a look at what I'm saying and see if they can find it in their own experience. Whatever you do, don't believe me.
mm, mm. So when Vishrant ends this journey in this form, what will happen to um, this formation?
You mean what will happen to me?
Or what will happen to what everything you've set up, this community, this.
I don't care. I don't have a long-term plan. It can continue or not continue. There's something like 2,500 videos out there which tell tell it how it is. And if the organisation wants to keep going, they can. I don't care.
Yeah, but
I've done my job.
yeah,
I've done it.
but without your finger on the pulse.
Well, then it's a matter of luck.
Hmm.
I can only guide it while I'm here. I can't be bothered thinking about what anything is going to be like after I'm not here. There's no freedom in that.
Mm. But is there a responsibility?
I'm responsible for the now.
Mm.
I'm not responsible for the future. I'm not responsible for the past, even, because that's gone too. And the future's just imagined. I'm responsible for the now. And I'm doing my best in the now to get the word out that is true
Mm.
against massive amounts of religions that are full of falseness.
Mm. Yeah. Do you think in this world, in this, it's just its nature to be corrupting? Do you know what I mean? Kind of like entropy, our bodies
Can
fall apart. Is it just in this world? That's how things, love is kind of the big context, if you like. But in this world that we're living in, even the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And coming back to that, really, I'm just thinking about, Krishnamurti, there's like loads of videos of Krishnamurti. Um,
Yep.
and he would always say, go to the source,
Yep.
you know, but, everything gets twisted in the end, doesn't it?
It can get twisted. I've made it very difficult for that to happen because I constantly contradict myself.
Right.
So it would be almost impossible to form a religion around me.
Mm. Almost.
Almost. Well, I don't know. I really don't care. Whatever the future does is none of my business.
Uh-huh.
Right now, right here with you, this is my business.
Uh-huh.
And so far, I like you a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, I've really been nice to meet and talk with you over the last hour or so. Really, from the other side of the world.
How old are you? I want
60.
60, man. You've gone white pretty young.
Oh yeah, it was in my 30s. I was going white. Because I
Really?
was because I saw a lot. I had lots of satoris in my early 20s, and
Ah,
had that desert was a long desert for me. Yeah.
uh-huh. A
Mm.
long and widening road.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Life has been very generous to me
Mm.
in a lot of ways. I think, I have an understanding of karma, and I think that whatever we put in, one way or another, we get it back.
Mm.
And I think choosing the way of the heart as I chose was the best thing that I could have ever done because it produced very good karma. The karma you get from helping people, from being in service, is way better than the karma you get from helping yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
You're as white as I am, and I'm 72.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not the age, it's the mileage.
Ah, I've done a lot of miles, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you've had such a great, fascinating life. And we didn't even talk about this time where you were stuck in the ocean.
No, I was stuck in the ocean, lost at sea in a runabout, circled by sharks for 18 hours, I think, altogether.
Mm.
And I got rescued at 2 o'clock in the morning by an oil tanker, the
Oof.
BP Endeavour.
Wow.
And to get to the oil tanker from my boat, I had to jump in the water and swim about 40 or 50 meters through the sharks to get to the nets that the oil tanker had dropped over the side so we could be rescued.
Mm.
That was an adventure and a half. I was a
Mm.
lot fitter. I was only 33, I think. Yeah, 33.
Right.
Ah, it's good, the good old days.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Vishrant. And um,
You know, I feel you.
mm, mm,
It's been nice talking to you.
yeah. Mm. Till next time.
Okay.